All right, let's talk about the graph that you just created. Let me put it into context so you know what the heck this is all about. Let's imagine that I am your ELA teacher and I have decided that I will throw you a pizza party. I will buy everybody pizza if all of us combined can read 10,000 minutes or more every month till the end of the school year. And to track that, we've got a graph. So each month we'll tally up how many points, we'll mark it on the graph, and if we can accomplish this goal, then I will be buying pizza. So here's the graph. Based on this graph, do you think that the kids are going to get a pizza party? Well, if we look, October, November, oh, we're above 10,000. Here's the 10,000 mark, but all of a sudden it falls. So based on this, it looks like maybe not. All right, let's talk about something. As a consumer of graphs, somebody who's looking at graphs because you're trying to get information, you know that this line tells you something, right? The lesson, though, that we want to learn is that the horizontal axis, which is the one that goes across the bottom, needs to have consistent spacing. Because if it doesn't, then it might tell a very different story, right? The numbers might not tell the same story that the graph is telling us. So let's go back and look at it a little bit. Across the bottom, we have September to October, that's about a month. From October to November, about another month. November to December, December to January. So it looks like each of these represents about a month. But then if you look closely, right here, between February 28th and the next tick mark, which is March 15th, that's not a whole month. That's about 2 weeks. And then over here, this is still March. So technically, these 2 tick marks represent a month. Let's look at the numbers. Right here, it's a little bit like 55, 5,700. And then this one is a little bit less, so we'd say maybe 5,400. If we add those two up, then technically in the month of March, our students did read 10,000 or higher. What about here? From April 15th, that's half a month. So the teacher did something kind of sneaky. They split March and April into 2 sections because the numbers look different in this graph than if they were to report all of March and all of April. So how do we make sure to do that? Well, let's go ahead and look. If I go into my graph and I change it, you're going to get 2 very different graphs. So let's go ahead and all right, let's learn how to make sure our graph is telling the right story. So the first thing you're going to need to do is copy and paste the graph from the first slide. So I'm going to select it and then tap copy, and tap and paste. The next thing I need to do is I need to adjust the data. So remember to edit the data, select the graph and click edit data. And I know that I only need 1 March and 1 April. So right above the month up here in the bar, tap it twice and delete once for each of March and April, so you only get 1. The next thing that you need to do is go back into your original data chart. And let's add up how much they read altogether for March and how much they read altogether for April. So March would be 10,700 and April would be 11,000. So I'll go back in here and I'll edit my data. Go ahead and pause the movie and do the same thing. Okay, now that you have your data done, the next thing we want to do is maybe add a line that shows where our student's goal is, right? So the teacher said you had to get 10,000 or more. So let's add that in. So we're going to make sure our graph is selected and go up into the Format menu. And way down at the bottom, we're going to add a reference line. So we'll click Add Reference Line, and I want to create a custom one. We're going to name it Goal, because that's right. That's what we said that we needed to reach at each month. And then we know that it was 10,000. All right, so once I've done that, as long as the students stay above that line, at or above that line, we should be good. The next thing that I want to do is let's make this pretty. So what if I want this to be a different color line? I'm going to go in here to either edit the series or the format. I think it's easier to go into the format, right? And then I can click on Edit Series. And if I tap on this little arrow just next to the blue, which is the line, I can come in here and choose what color I want this to be. So maybe green is good. I can choose what I want my line to look like. So if I want it to be squiggly, what kind of line? So maybe it's a dotted line, kind of like a solid line. I can make it have a shadow. I could put a trend line or error. I can even put a data symbol. Uh-oh, I lost my screen there. Hold, please. I'm back, sorry about that. Let's go into the data symbol. If I click here, I can choose whether or not that's a circle or a square. And that's what I have so far. All right. I want you to pause. I want you to make sure that you have your trend, your special line in there, and that you've changed your line so that it looks pretty. When you're finished, I want you to answer these two questions here. Which graph is more accurate and why? Is the graph on the first slide more accurate or the second slide? Make sure you explain why. And then the second question is, if you're the teacher and you're trying to avoid spending a ton of money on pizza, which graph is a better graph for you to use and why? All right, so make sure you answer those questions. And then you're going to turn that in. And the way you turn it in is by clicking on the More button, Export. I like you to turn it in as a PDF, which is the first one. And then click Export. And then copy to Schoology. All right, so go ahead and turn that in when you're done.